Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Dalet for AvodahZarah. We're picking up at the bottom of Gimel Bet. We're deep in the middle of the Agadah here. We spoke about, how all the nations will try to justify their actions. It's all about Torah. God will mock them. Even what you did for yourselves. Anyway, it's all for me. And then God wants, fine. I'll give you one last attempt to see if you can keep the mitzvos. Gives them an easy mitzvah, the mitzvah sukkah. They totally blow it. Okay, and then God laughs at them. And then we sort of got into a whole digression about God laughing. Okay, so now we pick up here. We pick up where it says, I'm a Rebbe Levi. It is about 8 lines before the lines get wide on Gimel Amud Bet. Two words in, 3 words in with an asterisk.
I thought we were at
Yoshev
V'Shomea Shira Mipi.
Yeah, we just did that.
We did that.
Okay. I mean, we got a little bit. We got a little.
Oh, I
bit
see.
further,
I see.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a Rebbe Levi. Kol posek midivrei Torah v'osek midivrei sicha machin lo gechale retamim. Says Rebbe Levi, whoever interrupts the words of Torah and involves himself in frivolous talk, they feed him like burning hot coals. Shneimar hakosfin maluach alei siach. Those who grab maluach, which means like some salted thing, but like he says, it's mei luach from the words that were written on the tablets. So you sort of pull yourself away from the words of the tablets. Alei siach for just plain. This is the way it's being read, not this literal meaning. For like frivolous talk, the sholish samin lachmam. So the root of like the these burning hot coals is will be your bread. Anybody, because this is all picked up on the fact that God is spending his time in the morning learning Torah, and then he's spending his time in the afternoon, like late afternoon, teaching Torah to these infants who died, at a young age, who died in their infancy. So that seems to be the tie-in here. So where are we? So so it says like this. Anybody who learns Torah at night, God causes a string of charm to wrap around the person in the day. In the day, God will command his kindness, or I think here it's sort of like his finding charm in the favor in the eyes of people. And now that was a quote we had before about at night his song is with me, because it was mentioned what does God do at night. He hears the song of the heavenly angels. Okay, matam yomam yitzav Hashem chazda. Why does God give this person a favor in the eyes of people in the day? Because at night his song is with me. So first of all, it's very beautiful that it sort of talks about Torah as a type of a song, as a way of brings joy, as a way of praising God, as a way of expressing your connection to God. The idea of Torah as a shira is something that Rav Soloveitchik has developed at great length. Also, the idea about doing it at night and getting rewarded in the day. The Marsha says normally somebody stays up late at night, they look miserable during the day. The next morning, you look miserable. Yeah, I was up all night studying. So here it's saying if you stay up all night studying Torah in the day, it'll be the opposite. Everybody say, oh, you look so good. You look like you're glowing or something like that. So that's part of the message. But the other point about Torah at night, is that nighttime is a time. I say this to my students sometimes. Like your whole day is structured. So if your job is to be a rabbi, you're doing mitzvahs during the day. If your job is to be whatever you do, at night it's sort of quiet, not structured time. And that's sort of where you get to demonstrate like what are you really about. Like nobody is around, nobody's looking. You have total ability to focus and do whatever you want. So if you're grabbing that time for Torah, that really shows something, as opposed to like, oh, woke up in the middle of the night, let me check my emails or go on Facebook or something like that. So all right, so I'm a review number Shmuel. What's meant by the verse? The human beings were like the fish of the sea, like the crawling things that nobody was a ruler over them. Why are human beings compared to the fish of the sea? The same way, as soon as you take them to the dry land, they'll immediately die. people, and here, Jews, maybe it's non-Jews, because the whole point was that non-Jews aren't involving themselves in Torah mitzvos. As soon as they separate themselves from Torah mitzvos, they will die, presumably like a spiritual death. That's the classic story, right, about Rebbe Akiva, and he's sort of, even after the Romans say that you can't learn Torah, he's basically, he has to keep on learning, because otherwise, he'll immediately die. Anyway, but again, the theme here, we're sort of seeming to have a little bit generalized. We're talking generally about the importance of learning Torah all the time, as you separate Torah mitzvos, but that's really the theme. The theme is that the importance here of AvodahZarah, and I keep on repeating this, is no longer the concern it was in the Tannaitic period, and certainly in the biblical period, of fighting the pagan world. It's about, and about the idolatry as the draw. It's about a commitment to a life of Torah mitzvos, and the way the larger world, doesn't represent that. It can draw you away from that. Okay, Davar Acher, another explanation. Ma dagim shabiyam kivan shekadra leim chama miyad metim. The fish, as soon as the sun beats upon them, they immediately die. I don't know what that means. Only after they're not in the sea. Do fish die in the sea? Maybe if there's a volcanic undersea volcanic eruption and the water boils. But anyway, presumably it's another way of saying that they're exposed and out of the water. Anyway, similarly, people, when the sun shines upon them, they immediately die. And presumably, does this mean literal? It might mean a line that we're going to come to, which is sort of referring to the sun of the future time. Okay, the sun in Messianic period. We'll see what that means in a minute. Okay, so the Gemara says, so Gemara's next line. It could mean in this world. Could mean the next world. This world could be Chanina, like Rabbi Chanina says. Everything is decreed from heaven except for cold and hot and heat. Cold and heat is in the way of the it's in the perverted path. Shomer nafsho yirchak, the person who protects himself will distance himself from him. So what does it mean? Everything is in the way. It's not in the hands of heaven. What it means is, the way Tosfos explains it is that certain, at least meteorological events are things that you cannot do anything to protect yourself from. If there's a hurricane, if there's a tsunami, if there's whatever, or maybe certain illnesses, you can't do anything to protect yourself from, which is funny because we know that you can. But anyway, but things like heat and cold, those are things that God is, it's not decreed whether you will suffer from the heat or the cold. You have the ability to, to control those situations. You have the ability to make sure if it's going to be a hot day, you sit in a cool house, you get air conditioning. If it's going to be a cold day, put on layers, so somebody, so it's, those are things that you can be aware are happening and prepare yourself and protect yourself from. So again, it's a little funny that that's contrasted to everything else in the world, but okay. Anyway, so therefore you see the dangers of extreme heat and extreme cold. And so that means also just human beings. Why would a pasuk be telling you about the sun? You're like fish. Be prepared about the sun. Yeah, it's just giving you good medical or good, not medical, but whatever, good advice about taking care of your own health. Good health advice. Just know that you're exposed to the elements and take good care.
I would have thought they would have gotten to just like a larger fish swallows a smaller fish.
We're getting there.
Oh.
V'bay saying, if you want, I can. Anyway, that was just one thing. Good health advice, being like your good Jewish mother. You're going to go out like that. Put on a hat, wear layers. V'bay saying, if you want, I can tell you. Olam haba. It's referring to the future time. There's no Gehenna in the world to come. Ella Kadosh Baruch Hu motzi chama min artika. What will happen is God will take the sun out of its sheath. Thank you. Right out of its protective covering. Right now we get the sun, but we're not getting the sun at full power. Okay. Umaktir, and he will burn it down. That'll cause the wicked people to be burned up, to be judged by it, to writhe in pain from the heat. But for the righteous ones, it'll actually bring healing. You go and you lie in the sun. It's wonderful, right? Think about, people who go and they lie by the beach. One person has an amazing time, soaked up the rays. The other person is hypersensitive to exposure, and they're, they have heat. They're burnt from head to toe, and it was a miserable experience. Top of Dalam Aleph. Day is coming, it'll be burning like a furnace. All of the wicked people and all those who do evil will be like stubble, and it'll burn them up. that future day. Amar Shem Tzvaos, Asher lo yazov lehem shorish va'anaf, will not be left for them a root and a branch. Lo shorish b'olam hazeh, no root in this world, v'lo anaf v'lo olam haba, no branch in the world to come. So that sort of describes the future time as tremendous heat that will destroy the wicked. But tzaddikim misrapim ba, but the righteous will be healed. I will shine for those who fear my name, the sun of righteousness, which brings healings in its wings. Okay, so the exact same thing will do one for the wicked, the other, and it all based one way sort of they tell there are stories or fables that basically give this message. Like one is, somebody goes and he dies, and they bring him down to Gehenna to show him what Gehenna is, and they've got Gehenna is like everybody is sitting at this table, and it's a feast and the most delicious food. The only problem is their arms are they can't bend their arms, so they're they reach the food and they can't feed themselves, and they're miserable and they're suffering. And then he goes up to Olam Haba and he sees the exact same thing, this tremendous feast, but everybody's arms are stuck, but what they're doing is they're feeding one another. So that's there's a beautiful message there. Anyway, so the point is the exact same experience based on who you are. Another version of it is Olam Haba. All Olam Haba is that your soul goes up to heaven, and whether you're a tzaddik or a rasha, and you spend the entire time sitting in the Beis Medrash learning Torah for God, from God. For the tzaddikim it's Gan Eden, and for the Rishonim it's Gehenna. So so anyway,
depends how good the Magashir is, right?
Well, it depends if you can tolerate just sitting and learning all day. Anyway, okay, below Od, so not only they find what's that day?
Pleasure.
They get physical pleasure. Their body, they're pampered by it. That's a good word, pampered by it. Shenemar, you will go out and you will sort of spread out like the calves of the marbake, some type of, I don't know what that is exactly, some type of a pen. Okay, anyway, and Rashi says it just means that you will,
what does that have to do with the sun?
So I think it's the end of that verse. Okay, so you'll just sort of you'll just bask in the sun. Okay. So here's another explanation. What does
Pishtem mean?
I spread out. Rashi says it means, what does Rashi says it means? That you'll be fattened. What?
That makes more sense for being fattened.
Right. Another reason we're compared to the fish of the sea. The big fish swallows the small fish. Human beings were not for the fear of the government or the kingdom. Would be a dog eat dog, fish eat fish world. And the stronger would destroy the weaker. That's what we taught. Pray for the well-being of the government. Were it not for the fear of the law and of the government, one person would swallow up his neighbor. Okay, so that's the Tefillah L'Shlomo Malchus. That is, been a long part of the history of the liturgy for the Jewish people. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Rami. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa showed a contradiction. Ksiv Shaddai lo mitza'anuhu sagikoah. God, we have not found you to be great in strength. But another verse says, "Gadol Adonai v'rav koach." Great is our Lord, and abundant in strength. Your right hand, O Lord, is glorified in strength. So does God have strength? What does this pasuk mean that God did not have strength? So now we're going to tie this back into Jews versus non-Jews, and future judgment, etc. Lo kash, it's not difficult. Kan b'shas adin, kan b'shas milchama. At the time of judgment, right? Because also we sort of said, what does God do at different times during the day? He sits in judgment, but then he realizes that the world can't last by judgment. So he gets up from the seat of judgment and moves to the seat of compassion. So when God has to sit in judgment, he does not gird his strength. He does not bring forth his full strength. He holds himself back. But at the time of war, like the verse, obviously by the Shurat Hayam, and maybe there's specifically also a suggestion here about punishment of the wicked nations, that's when God brings his strength to full force. Rabbi Chanina, Rami, showed a contradiction. See, if one verse says, Chima ainli, I do not have anger. But another verse says, God takes vengeance and is is filled with anger. Lokash, it's not difficult. Again, obviously echoing the theme that we began with. Is it about how God is going to deal with the Jews or how God is going to deal with the non-Jews? That's one answer. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Amar, no, here's a different explanation. Chema ainli, I don't have anger, shekvar nishpati, because I have taken oath, meaning as Rashi says, yes, I am a person, whatever. I am filled with anger, I am inclined to anger, but and maybe justly so because of the sins, etc. So that's the verse that Baal Chema, but Chema ainli, but I have forgone my anger. I'm filled with it, but I have forgone it. Okay, Chema ainli shekvar nishpati, because I have taken an oath, not to destroy the humankind. Me neni shelo nishpati. It would be that I had not taken the oath, I would just bring like destruction onto the world. Okay, so
that's the end of the verse. This much later, not response to the Jewish people's sins. It's just God's general.
Yeah, it's not exactly clear if the focus here is about the sins of mankind in general, the world. I mean, that fits with the idea that God judges the world, and then God realizes it can't bring the attribute of justice. So I don't think it's specifically. Yeah, I don't think it's specifically Jews versus non-Jews, specifically about the world. That's but the Gemara isn't being clear. Okay, you could read it about the non-Jews. Could be about the Jews. Now here it gets to the non-Jews explicitly. What's meant by the verse, and will be at that day, I will want to destroy all the nations, right? So there's the idea, God has this anger, he wants to destroy, but he holds himself back. Okay, he takes this oath. So here it's specifically being focused on the non-Jews. At that day, I will ask to destroy all the nations. Desire is obviously what it means in this context. But the Gemara has a great thing. Evakesh, me. Who does God have to ask permission from? God is God. What do you mean you're going to ask? So Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, God is saying, Evakesh begini shalahem. I will look in, not I will ask permission, I will investigate into their, records, into their historical records. So again, echoing back the question about how have they acted in the past. In Yeshem Zechus Eftem, if they have merit, then I will redeem them. If in love, and if not, Ashmidem, I will destroy them, which is Evakesh Hashmid. So, but I will look, but obviously the end result will be is Hashmid, because as we've seen, they will produce their records, they'll produce their stories, and it will not pass muster. That's what Rava says. What's meant by the verse? So it's a very difficult verse. It's a verse from Eov, so of course go figure out what it means. Anyway, however he does not desire, he will send forth his hand if in the pido, for them it will be salvation. So what does even this pido mean? So God says to the Jewish people, when I judge the Jewish people, I will not judge them like I judge the nations. By them it says, Ave asimena. So destruction, or turn over, I will make them, meaning that I will bring all of their punishment on the nations. I bring it all at once. Ella, but rather, ani niframen kipid shel tarnagolet. So I will like the pecking of a chicken, so
like death by 1,000.
So well, yeah, that would be the negative of it. But meaning when they have to be punished, it'll be like tiny little punishments it'll be the installment plan over a long period of time. So therefore, it will not, as opposed to, so it's lo ba'yishlach yad. I don't want to send my hand against you, the Jewish people, to punish you all at once. That would be too destructive. I leave that for the other nations. It's pido, like a little pecking, and Shoah, it'll be salvation for you to have a little bit, to distribute your punishment over time. Okay. Davar acher, another explanation. Even if the Jewish people only do before me mitzvot a little bit, like the pecking of a chicken, that they peck in the garbage dung, the garbage heap. I'll add it all up to a big thing. In the merit that they cry out to me, meaning, does it mean because of their anguish, because of the way they're being oppressed? Does it mean that they pray to me? Presumably the anguish. I will save them. What's meant by the verse? I will redeem them. I like Zavim, and they have spoken on me falsehoods. I said, I will sort of, redeem the Jewish people, meaning so that I will take my payment from them. Punishment for their sin will be the fact that they may suffer a little bit in this world. Okay, so that's how God is going to redeem us. He'll bring our, this is the classic rabbinic trope. Why do the non-Jews have it bad in this world? And why do the non-Jews have it good and the Jews have it bad? Because God is paying up the Jews for their sins in this world, so we'll be rewarded in the world to come, and He's paying the non-Jews up for their mitzvot and their good deeds in this world, so that they won't get the merit of the world to come. Of course, the problem with all of this is, as opposed to before, where besides the general problem being that it doesn't, some passages in the Gemara don't conform to people's contemporary, more pluralistic, universalistic ethos. But besides that, before it was basically saying the Jews did the right thing and the non-Jews did the wrong thing. Of course, it was very generalizing. It chose to look at all non-Jews in one brush and all Jews in another brush. But anyway, at least what it was describing was fair, in the sense that you guys have had your chance. You didn't do the Shev Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. You guys did the Torah and Mitzvot, right? That's sort of the way it was presented. Here, it's a little bit like it's not fair. Why does God choose to punish, the non-Jews one way and the Jews another way? Why does God, if there's clearly the process is not fair, not just, the outcome is different. Okay, so but that may be the answer. That's sort of the general sense. Is the answer because we have a covenant with God? Is the answer because we've merited this? Because in general our actions, are seen to be better. But anyway, here the sense of favoritism more, is much more stands out than in the earlier discussion. Okay. Okay. They would merit in the world to come. But these ingrates, the Jewish people, they spoke falsehood about me. They complained and said, why is God punishing us? And they didn't realize that I was doing this ultimately to reward you. That's what Rav Papi says, Mishmei to Rav Amai to see what's meant by the verse. I brought, I sort of afflicted them, I strengthened their arms, and they considered it to be bad, and that they thought evil against me. I thought that I would afflict them in this world to strengthen their power, their arms in the world to come. It's like, when somebody makes you do a hard workout and go to the gym, right? You're cursing them under your breath, but at the end of the day, it's good for you, right? Because it's strengthening you and it's helping your health. And so all they did is they cursed me under their breath. They say they attributed evil to me. Okay, fine. So that's sort of the end, that God sort of does this all for our benefit. We should take consolation. It's interesting. I happen to see, like I've mentioned in the past, that with all of the wonderful new translations out there and ArtScroll and all of that, Sansino, okay, it's a little stilted translation, Sansino. It's a much more literal one. But anyway, it has good scholarly notes, which I've been very disappointed that even like the Steinsaltz Gemara, which has all these wonderful pictures on the side or whatever, sometimes it doesn't have some of the relevant scholarship about some of this stuff. So anyway, one of the interesting things it sort of said on a footnote right at the beginning, all of this showed here at the beginning, I've been sort of talking about how it's there to frame how do we look at the larger world, or if that's implicitly the message. But they also point out, that it's about bringing consolation, that one of the points of a drasha was to speak to an oppressed people who are suffering and, whatever, and trying to explain to them it'll all be okay in the future. And here's how to understand why you're suffering and they have it good. So that's like a theme, right? It opens up in the future time, they're going to try to justify themselves, but, God's going to mock them. You're going to be rewarded, especially if you talk about Yom Edam, which is the opening Mishnah, right? Which is both their holidays. So here he is, you're in this pagan culture and everybody's celebrating all of these pagan holidays, right? And you're sort of wondering, like, what the heck am I, like they're obviously the successful ones, and like this is and then turning it and saying, ultimately that that holiday is Yom Edam, will be their downfall, right? So part of the message here is also like a consolation of what does it mean to be a tiny oppressed minority in this larger, sort of culture, and sort of saying in the end you'll all be rewarded. So seeing it through that lens. So anyway, the interesting point that there was made in that footnote was that if you think about the Kaddish Rabbanan, right, that was said after a drasha, which we still say, the Kaddish Rabbanan says, le'ela mikol shirasa v'tushbachasa v'nechemasa. God is praised above all of the songs and the praises and the nechama. The consolations. What's the word consolation doing in a Kaddish that's about learning Torah? So the point was that these types of drashot were called nechamasa. They were to give consolation to like an oppressed people, you know. So anyway, so that's, I think, that's clearly this like these last themes here. Okay, so now moving on. Rabbi Avo was praised lemine to a certain heretic. Again, does that mean a Jewish Christian? Who does that mean exactly? Rav Safra, about Rav Safra. Oh my God, you should hear about Rav Safra. What a huge Talmid Chacham. All right, so so this min, this heretic, or whatever, this Jewish Christian, apparently he was a government official, and he therefore what he did was that he basically gave him a pass on tax for 13 years. So so talk about like tax breaks, you know. So anyway, he got a 13-year pass on the tax break. Doesn't mean that he had owed 13 years in back taxes and he just forgot about it. He waived it. Okay. Anyway, that's what it sounds like. Anyway, Yom Echad Ashkechu. One day, this min bumped into Rav Safra. Amalei said to him, "Oh, I've heard about you. Let me ask you something. See, one verse says, only you I know from all of the families of the land. Therefore, I have visited upon you all your sins." And yadati sort of means like I love you, I've chosen you. So mandi islay sisaya brachme masikle. So somebody who has like anger, he does he direct it against his loved ones? Because I loved you, I visited your sins upon you. What the heck does that mean? Ishtik, he was silenced. He couldn't respond. He didn't have a good answer. Ramile Sudra B'Tzavar. So basically they said, what? And you're supposed to be this big Talmid Chacham. So they threw him into handcuffs, which here is that they put a handkerchief around his neck to drag him off into jail or whatever, to afflict him, become Mitzarale, and they were afflicting him. So here you were, I waived your taxes and you don't know anything. So also Rabbi Avo say, he found them what was happening. Amalu, he said, why are you afflicting him? Amrulay, they said to him, what do you mean? You told him he was a great Talmid Chacham and clear, and we were nice to him as a result, and he's not. He couldn't even give us a good explanation of this verse. He said to them, when did I tell you that he was a big Talmid Chacham? When it came to like rabbinic literature. I never said that he knew, how to explain biblical verses. It's so funny, like even at the time of the rabbis, they understood the phenomenon of a Talmid Chacham who knows like all of Shas, but doesn't know a pasuk, the Rashash, one of the more recent commentator on the Gemara, in the beginning of the Gemara Baba Basra, it talks about how during years of famine, Rebbe basically had all these warehouses, and he said, I'm only going to provide food for somebody who's like a Talmid Chacham. Not the Amei Haaretz don't get food. So somebody who wanted to show Rebbe that it was like not proper to do that, a big Talmid Chacham. Anyway, he dressed up and he pretended he was like he pretended he was like an Amei Haaretz, and he came to Rebbe and he said, Rebbe, feed me. And Rebbe said, have you learned Tanakh? And he said, no. He says, have you learned Mishnah? And he said, no. Anyway, so then the Rashash interrupts the narrative and says, you see that even after he said he didn't learn Tanakh, Rebbe thought it was possible that he still had learned the rabbinic literature. So this shows you that it's possible to know rabbinic literature without knowing Tanakh. He says, But anyway, that's a common phenomenon. Anyway, so this is what he is saying to him. Okay, he knows the rabbinic literature. He doesn't know Tanakh. So if that's true, how come you, Rabbi Avo, how come you know Tanakh? If what the rabbinic culture is about learning the rabbinic literature, and it's not including learning Tanakh, how do it get to be that you're such a bucky in Tanakh? Because we know those are the conversations we have with you all the time. So Amar Lahu, he said to them, we that are found among you, like we regularly have these types of discourses with you about Tanakh, about Pesachim Tanakh. This makes it sound very much, that we're talking about Jewish Christians and about, that's what it means by min, and that therefore, they would always, we know this in the Middle Ages, right? So much of the Jewish Christian debates were about trying to prove, who is right based on the biblical verses that we both shared. Right, based on the Jewish scriptures, Christians were trying to prove. You see that Christianity ultimately was foretold, and all of those disputations would a lot be around the Tanakh. So basically, so it seems like that's the context, and that Rebbe Yavo was like a constant, there's other indications about this, that there were these sort of arenas in which, settings in which they would debate these verses of Tanakh. So that's what he says. He said, look, we are among you, and this is a common discourse that we Jews have with you, minim. So therefore, we make a point of learning Tanakh better, so we'll know how to respond to your claims. Yeah, but the people that stay, cloistered up in the yeshiva, they don't know Tanakh. Okay, but by the way, you understand also that the point about them quoting a verse about you being an afflicted people, right? Because do you look at the afflictions of the Jews as a sign, right? The classic sort of Christian theology is that it's because that the Jews didn't accept Jesus, and that's why the Jews are the afflicted people, right? So, and here's a verse that says, no, we're afflicted because God loves us. So so that's why that was sort of being the verse that was being challenged, right? So Amrle, so Leimalan At, so they said, okay, fine. So you tell us, how would you read this verse? Amrlahu, what does it mean? God says, because I loved you, I afflict you. Amrlahu, he says to them, let me give you an example. Okay, what is this like? Not an example. What's a parable? A person has borrowed money from two people. One is his person who's his friend, who's very, who loves him. One who hates him. The one who loves him goes on the installment plan. He allows him to pay up $10 a week until it's all paid up. So no need for minivasachas. The one who hates him waits a few months and then comes and demands all $10,000 at once. Okay, so that's why God says, because I love you, I will visit your sins upon you, means that you will suffer a little at a time, so you don't have to suffer all big and all at once. What's meant by the verse? God, it is God forbid for you to do such a thing. This is Avram arguing with God about Sodom. Lamit tzadikim rasha, to kill a righteous with a wicked. Amar Avram lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Avram said to God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, chulinhu miasos kadavar hazeh. It is considered, it's profane for you to act in this way. Lamit tzadikim rasha. Low, but is that really true? Like now we're going to question, because a lot of this is about, right, the justice in the future time, the messianic times, and why do we suffer in this world? So now we're going to actually start asking some questions about that. Is that really true that God doesn't bring the death of the righteous together with the wicked? I will cut off from you the righteous and the wicked. But that's not somebody who's truly righteous. Are you telling me that somebody who's truly righteous, that they won't suffer that fate? And from my sanctuary you shall begin the destruction. And Rav Yosef taught, I'll take you mikdashai, don't mean from my sanctuary, from those that are sanctified by me. The human beings that have fulfilled the entire Torah from A to Z, and they are the ones who will first be afflicted when the time of affliction or destruction comes. So Hasamnami there too, since they could have protested to the wicked that was being done in the world, and they did not. They are the righteous. They are not fully righteous. Don't tell me that you're fully righteous because of your own personal deeds. If you don't be a silent enabler, right? And a lot of that is current also, like in the whole Me Too and coming to the surface. But it's always an issue, right? Who is the one that said all wicked needs to succeed is for good men to say stay silent and do nothing, or something like that, and say nothing, right? So the silent enablers are a major part of what allows evil to succeed. So don't tell me you're righteous just because your deeds are righteous. Okay, so right now, partly though, again, within the larger context, presumably what it's doing is trying to explain to people why it is that it looks like good people suffer. So one explanation is, well, God is paying us a little bit at a time. But there's still people say, no, it's unjust, and it says, no, it is just. If people are suffering, then there's a reason that they're suffering. They're not totally righteous, okay? Now, Rav Papa Rami, Ksiv, it says, El Zoein B'chol Yom, God gets angry every day. Ksiv, and it says, who can stand before God's anger? So if God gets angry in every day, and God's anger, will just, nobody can survive, so why isn't the world destroyed? So, it's not difficult. An individual can't stand in front of God's anger, but when God judges the entire world, the merit of the entire world prevents God's anger from destroying it. So again, that sort of theme that the world is deserving of destruction, but it's preserved. Okay, God gets angry every day. How long is God's wrath? I shouldn't just say anger. Anger is a little tame word. God's is wrathful every day. And how long is his wrath? Rega, an instant. The kama rega, how long does an instant last? Achas mechanish ribo, one of 50,000, v'shlosha 53,000, v'shmona me'ot and 800, v'arbayim v'shmona and 48. 153,848th the shah of an hour. I have no idea where they got that, but if we round up to 60,000th because of an hour, so you drop the 60, so it's 1/1000th of a minute. So what is that? Anyway, you divide it by another 60. So it's one, I guess, one like less than like 1/150th of a second. Okay. Zohi rega. This is a rega. The inko birya yicholo la'achavine osa rega. And no human being, creature, can identify that instant, that 1/1000th of a second, that God is angry. Chutz mi Bilam Arash, except for Bilam. Because it says by Bilam, Yodea dat elyon, who knows the thought of the Most High. So this is like such a wonderful Gemara, like puncturing like Bilam's arrogance. Efsher das behemto lo have yada. He couldn't even know what his animal was thinking. Das elyon mi have yada. Could he know what God was thinking? So my das behemto lo have yada. What does it mean he couldn't know what his animal was thinking? Beidna de chazule. So when it says Bilam goes and he saddles up his donkey, to go with the Sarei Midian or whatever, Moab. So it says that when they saw him saddling up his donkey, so Amruleh, they said to him, "My time susaya. Why are you riding on a donkey? You should ride on a horse. That's a more honorable type of a ride." Amruleh, he said to them, "Berativa Shaddai. Yeah, it's over in the it's grazing in the swamp. It wasn't available, my horse. Shaddai." Miyad, immediately, the donkey answered back, "Hello, Anochi Asoncha. What do you mean? It's not like you usually use a horse and Nebuch you had to use me. I am your donkey. I'm the one you always ride on. Amarle, let's eat about him. No, I just use you for a beast of burden. I don't ride on you. Amarle, Asher Rachavta alai. No, I am the donkey that you always ride on. Amarla, Akrai Ba'alma. Yeah, occasionally. Amarle, so the donkey said back, no, from your entire life, I am your regular ride. Below now, Ella, and now we get to understand why does he choose to ride on a donkey? Shani, I provide you rides during the day. I ride for you in the day. The Ishus B'layla, and I act to you as a wife at night. Okay, so obviously this is completely like mocking Bilam. Okay, Ksiv Hacha, how do you know it? Because it says, have I ever like sort of risked or whatever? Have I ever done this type of something like this to you? That's what the donkey says to Bilam. But we'll look on the word haskein. So what does haskein mean? Ksiv Hasam Batilo Sochanet. It says by David, by the Avishag Hashunamis, that she was a warmer for him, like he slept together with him, to provide warmth. Is the verse there by David. So anyway, so you see, he says that I'm like your wife. So anyway, so he didn't even know what his donkey was thinking. I mean, not only could he not read his donkey's mind, but he couldn't even best his donkey in an argument. So Ella, so such a fool. What does it mean? He knows the thought of the Most High. So Ella, he knew that exact instant when God got wrathful against the world, and therefore he was able to pinpoint it. And therefore, if he sort of prayed to God at that moment or tapped into that anger, he could bring terrible destruction. And that's what the Navi says to Israel. Remember what Balak, the king of Moab, planned against you. And how Bilam responded to him. From the Shittim to the Gilgal, when you were encamped in that place. You should know the righteousness of God. So what are we supposed to know? What are we supposed to understand about that event that tells us the righteousness of God? So you would say, well, God, changed the curses into blessings and so on. But here it says, God says to the Jewish people, you should know how much acts of righteousness I did with you at that time. I held back that instant of wrath that I have every day. Had I allowed myself to have that instant of wrath, so would not have been left from the haters, from the non-Jewish haters of Israel any remnant, right? That's just a way of, they don't want to say that the Jews would be destroyed. So it says, so it sort of displaces it. But meaning nobody of the Jewish people would have been destroyed. If I had allowed myself to get angry, Bilam would have tapped in to that moment of anger. And that's what Bilam says to Balak. Ma ekov lo kavo el. What will I curse that God has not cursed? Uma ezom, and here's the time to the word za'am, right? Lifnei za'amo miyamod el zoein b'chol yom. It's a brilliant agarta, right? Lifnei za'amo miyamod. Nobody can withstand God's wrath. El zoein b'chol yom. There's that moment of wrath in the day, and Bilam was going to try to tap into that moment of wrath, and here we have Za'am used in the third pasuk, right, where it says, "Ma ezom lo za'am Hashem." What can I bring wrath against that God has not shown wrath? So therefore God has chosen to withhold that moment of wrath, and therefore I cannot tap into it, and I cannot bring destruction. Okay, v'kama za'amo, and how long is that moment of wrath? Rega, a rega. V'kama rega, how long is a rega? So we just said it's like 1/100th of a second, but now we're going to say Amar meimar v'itema ravina rega kimeim re. It's as long as it takes you to say the word rega. That's it. Okay. Minolan de rega have riticha ritche, and where do we know that rega is about God's wrath? I mean, how do we know to associate? The rega, the moment, right, with the idea of God's wrath? Because the other verse said El zom b'chol yom, every day. But now we're limiting that time of the anger, of the wrath, to a rega. Where is that association of rega with God's anger? Tichsiv, because the verse says ki rega be'apo, only a moment in God's anger, chayim b'rtzono, and a lifetime in God's favor. If you want, you can say from here, chiki kima rega ad ya'avor za'am. Wait a moment until the wrath passes. And there you have, that's actually a better verse because it has the word za'am again. Okay. Now, so that, what?
Isn't that related to when the non-Jewish kings get up and pray in the morning?
Yeah, we're going to tie that. We're going to get there. It's coming up. Okay. By the way, there's a very cute Tosos. If you look at Tosos, Tosos says, Rega kimeim rei. So he says, V'im tomer ma'ay yochol lomer b'shamu etes kazos. What could Bilam have said, even if he knew that exact second? What can you say in a half a second to if you only have that tiny window? So the Yezlo Mahaya Omer Kaleim, destroy them. Kaleim. I guess you could say that as long as it takes to say Rega. And God reversed it, and rather than Kaleim, the reverse is Melech, could receive a Trumas Melech Bo. So that's one answer. You can just say one word, Kaleim. Rabbi Eliyahu you only have to begin. You have to tap into that. Once you got in that little opening and you began your prayer, then etc. Okay, so anyway, so all you had to do is get into that opening, and then he could have spent his time, and it all would have tapped into that anger. There's interesting, the Rogatchover, was this a brilliant rabbi from about 100 years ago. He was like this very out-of-the-box thinker. Like, he would make these weird comparisons. Anyway, so the question was, like, if somebody starts davening, right, a minute before the end of the Zman, does it count daven in the Zman? Like it's a minute before, whatever, the end of Chatzot or before sunset or whatever the case might be. Does it count like you've davened in this during the Zman or not? So he based on this Tosos, you see, it only matters that you started at the right time.
I think about that.
Yeah, so exactly. Anyway, all right. So now the Gemara continues. Amos Ratach. So now we said only Bilam knew that, but let's us try to get at least a rough sense of when is that moment of God's anger. So Amar Abai said Abaye, the first 3 hours of the day, when the crown of the rooster is white. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, no, what do you mean? The crown of a rooster is always white. So no, no, normally there are like red streaks in it. If you shite that 1 second, you'll only see pure white, no red streaks. So now, based on this, now we have a way of identifying that moment. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi HaMitzar Le'ahumina, back to the min. There was a certain min that was giving Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi a hard time. Bikrai. Now, if you insert in the brackets, it doesn't mean he was giving him physically afflicting him. It means like the theme we mentioned before. He was quoting verses, biblical verses, to try to demonstrate the rightness of his faith, and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi was having a hard time responding. Okay, he was losing those types of disputations. So Yom Echad, so what was he going to do? So Yom Echad Naka Tarnagola, he took a rooster, V'ukma ben Kari Da'arsa, he put it between the legs of his bed, V'ayin ba, and he focused on it. Savar Kimata Hi Shata Alatye. I'm going to keep my eyes on this for 3 straight hours, and when I see that it turns white, then I'll curse this min, and he'll be to get him off my back. Kimata Hi Shata. When that moment came, Nimnem, he had fallen asleep. Okay, there's like I don't know if anybody have read Kafka's The Castle. Oh my God, that was such a long book. It was so hard to get through. But anyway, but the end of it, like there's this guy. It's all some obviously Kafka-esque story. Anyway, about like presumably trying to find the true meaning of life or whatever it is. Anyway, so this guy is looking and looking the whole book. He's trying to understand like why this person is here in this town or whatever. Anyway, at the very end of the book, he finally finds somebody who says, "I will tell you like what what we're doing here." And then at the critical moment, the guy falls asleep. Like when it's time for him to finally be told what it is, what it's all about. So anyway, all right, at that critical moment, he fell asleep. Amar.
And Yaakov to his sons when he's going to give them the blessing.
Yeah, that's God removes it. But there's something a little bit funnier about like, you're spending like whatever, a 500-page book, like, you're spending your life trying to. So we actually had the yeshiva recently, BT Ro'i is a wonderful, teacher. She did Kabbalah and Hasidus. Anyway, so she told the story about, I'm trying to remember if it was Rav Nachman. I don't remember if it was Rav Nachman. Anyway, Rav Nachman, I think it might have been Rav Nachman. Or she might have quoted somebody else. Anyway, who said, the whole question about how can there be, divine foreknowledge and free choice, right? The question that like involved, the philosophers, were, spent like, whatever, all this time trying to understand. So there was a story that Rav Nachman said, yeah, when I was young, I figured out the answer to that, and I wrote the answer on a piece of paper, and I lost it. So it's like a message about like, is it really about the answer, or is it really like, or is it really about like, it could be, anyway, you could read that a couple of ways. Is it about searching for the answer? Is it about the answer? Is any answer really the true answer? Anyway, so it's all the same. Okay, yeah, at that moment, I fell asleep. So you see from this, it's not the right thing to do. Even though this could get him off my back, you don't act this way. It's not a right way for a righteous person to act. God's compassion is on all God's creatures. We shouldn't wish evil on anyone, even the people that are afflicting us. Even punishment, but here it's the bringing of punishment, is not appropriate for a righteous person. We talk in the name of Rav Meir.
Is this a Christian element here, do you think?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, it seems like in judgment is appropriate in terms of supporting the idea of what's right and wrong, and there will be punishment for it. Mm-hmm. And the Christian idea, this idea of
like turn the other cheek.
Yeah, right.
Maybe, but I'm not sort of, I hear that. I just think it means that, the turn the other cheek is a little bit of an extreme, because it's almost to the point of don't even defend yourself, so there's a little difference between just expose yourself to being beaten up and don't defend yourself, as opposed to, you shouldn't be going ahead and attacking other people. So I maybe, but I read this more as like, a righteous person doesn't go and attack people, even people like, I think just attacking and bringing punishment on people is different than defending yourself. God brings punishment. Are we supposed to be the agents of bringing punishment on other people?
In Tehillim 149, I think at the end, doesn't it say the righteous will do this to the wicked?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying those things are, are absent from our tradition, but the question is, the message here is not that. Okay.
That seems in conflict with what we did a couple minutes ago. Yeah. About if you just are silent and an enabler to evil, you're not a tzaddik gamor.
So here you mean, right, but this is not about evil in the world. You mean, so how are you saying it? That like by
that if you see a bad guy, are you supposed to
Oh, you're supposed to attack him.
And attack him as opposed to sitting.
Right. So I think that's an interesting question. I think here the point is fundamentally you're not there to stop evil being done. You're trying to just protect yourself. I think that there's a difference. Like, you're trying, somebody's afflicting you and you want to punish that person. There's something much more personal and less righteous about that type of an activity than when somebody is doing evil out of the world. Also, there's a question, right, about punishing as opposed to stopping the activity. Before the Gemara spoke about micha, right, to protest, and I think that's different than a desire to see punishment brought, right? Because that does tap into our lower, yes, you could sort of do it from a high-minded place, but like to want to get vengeance, right? That does tap into our our more base instincts. Okay, anyway, so okay. We turn the name of Rav Meir. When they put their, it's when the kings like take their crowns off and bow down to the sun, they sort of show their mortality and their humanness, and they put their crowns aside, but what they worship is the sun. God immediately gets angry. So that's that moment of anger. Maybe it's not clear if it's directly connecting it to the previous point about the Zam. Amar Yosef, do not pray Musaf during the first 3 hours of the day on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, when alone, when you're not in the tzibur. Why? Since that's when judgment will be wrought, especially because before we said the first 3 hours of the day, the Gemara is going to ask this. We said the first 3 hours of the day God sits and learns Torah. The second 3 hours God sits in judgment. But right now we're assuming judgment is in the beginning of the day, and presumably also judgment associated with Musaf, because Musaf is the central prayer of Rosh Hashanah. It's Malchus, Sechonos, and Shofros. So don't have that whole focus of judgment. And there you're a Yachid. You're not doing it as part of the tzibur, so you're all standing by yourself. So don't do it at that time, because that is the greatest time of judgment, and you're exposing yourself to the most danger. They will inspect your deeds, and you'll be pushed off. You'll come out suffering from the judgment. You'll be found guilty. So Gemara says, if that's true, then even the congregation shouldn't daven Musaf that early on Rosh Hashanah. I don't know what show they were going to that they could get to Musaf by 3 hours into the day. So Gemara says, no, when you're davening the tzibur, you have a lot of merit, and therefore that will protect you even when you daven that early. So if that's true, then why shouldn't you even Shachris on Rosh Hashanah? You shouldn't daven during the first 3 hours of the day, which is obviously the time to daven. No, because everybody is davening Shachris during the first 3 hours of the day. So even if you're davening at home, you're connected to the prayers of the tzibur. But Musaf, most people don't get up to Musaf that early. So if you're at home, when you're at home, you daven quicker usually, especially on Rosh Hashanah. There's so much in the tzibur. Well, if all you had to do was daven at home, you go through it a lot quicker. So therefore, if you're up to Musaf in the first 3 hours of the day, in the shuls, they're not up to Musaf. So then you're really sort of seen as standing alone, and you don't want to stand alone in judgment, particularly during that period, which is the period of judgment. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Marta, but didn't you say the first 3 hours God's learning Torah? So it says Epoch. All right, reverse it. The first 3 hours he's sitting in judgment. The second 3 he's learning Torah. Don't reverse it. Torah emes. Torah is about truth. Buy truth and don't sell it. Right, meaning be prepared to pay for your education, but you teach others, for free. So Torah is about truth. When God is learning Torah, it's interesting, even though he's not sitting in judgment, but if you're sort of praying to God while God is learning Torah, it's sort of true also. Like if you ever go into a base medrash, right, like don't talk in a base medrash about, human compassion and being nice, whatever. Like, no, it's all about pure argument, argue your side, argue the other side. It's like, not when somebody comes to you for a psak halacha. Somebody comes to psak halacha, we can be a little flexible. We can rely on shitot we normally wouldn't agree with, because it's about dealing with the human being as opposed to the Torah. It's all about sort of arguing, and finding the truth. So if you try to talk to God while God's in the base medrash, okay, you're not going to get too much flexibility. All right. So din, the loksi ms, when it comes to judgment, which doesn't have to be about truth. You can be about compassion. Judgment is about applying the law to the human reality. It's not about some abstract philosophical truth. So it doesn't have to, so therefore it can be a little bit more flexible. Okay, the loksiv so in that case, God can go not doing the exact judgment. God could find a little bit more latitude. Okay, so it's better to deal with God when God is actually sitting in judgment than when God is learning Torah. Quite ironic, but I certainly understand exactly the type of the type of dynamic or reality that the Gemara is just describing. Okay, we will end here for today. Good, pretty much got